Are live right now.
We'll call this meeting of the Victoria Senior Citizen Advisory Committee to order, and we're going to do a roll call. Sharon.
I'm here.
Nice to have you here.
Upright.
Susan.
Here.
Nice to have you here. I'm here. Richard.
Here.
Nice to have you here. Alina.
Here.
Yeah. And Jennifer.
Here.
Welcome.
Come on.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Patrick's not here. And Kara,
Yep, Kara Cassidy.
nice to have you with us too.
Thank you.
New faces. This is great.
Do we want to just do a quick introduction?
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
people
well, I think
meet
we
each
should.
other.
We should, yeah.
We could do maybe how long you've been on the committee, how long you lived in Victoria. I know.
I've been on the committee forever, it feels like. Sue and I are the original members, right? In Victoria for 10, 11 years now, you know, retired. Used to work in public schools and universities, so background that way. Let's go around this side. Richard, why don't you go next?
I'm Richard. I moved here about 10 years ago. I've been on the committee for about 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm also retired. I was a high voltage electrician.
I'm Sharon, and I actually moved from Upper North, Grand Rapids, Minnesota. I have a son and family, son in Chan, and a daughter in Red Wing. Yeah, and I've been here going on 5 years.
5 years. Terrific. Sue.
Well, as David said, we've been on the Senior Advisory Committee for probably 5 years.
Is it 5 years? Has it been that long?
2021, so
Yeah. Oh,
4 years.
Yeah.
4 years. That sounds more like it.
okay.
And we moved from Wisconsin to Victoria in 2000. I've been retired for 6 years and enjoying my retirement, travel, have a lot of fun, play a lot of pickleball, work out. So life is good.
I joined the committee last year. My children, my last is graduating from Minnetonka High School this year. We moved here about 11 years ago, so I raised my kids here, basically. Yeah. I am a mortgage loan officer by day. I specialize with retirees. I've been part of area on aging and a lot of the senior protection things that have been happening statewide for years. And I thought it's finally time to get involved in my local community and making it a great place to retire.
Love that. Hi everyone, I'm Jenny Spalding. I know it says Jennifer, but everybody calls me Jenny.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
been in Victoria for 6 years in July, and I have 2 boys. Dylan is a freshman at TCU, and Ryan is a junior at Holy Family. And I'm not retired. I run an estate planning and elder law firm out of Chaska, which is why I wanted to get involved in the Senior Advisory Committee, because seniors are very important to what I do in my professional life, and I wanted to bring that into my personal life and the community where I live.
Terrific. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
So hi, I'm Kara Cassidy. I come from Carver County Public Health Office of Aging. I also just finished a term on the Chanhassen Commission on Aging, where I was the chair of that committee. And I attend all 5 Commission on Aging meetings that happen in the County of Victoria every month. So I come bearing public health news.
Good to have you.
Patrick is absent today, but Patrick Jones, he usually sits here. He is our liaison from the Victoria Library, so he comes when he is able to make it as well. And then I'm Melissa Nelson. I've been the staff liaison for this committee, well, since its enactment 4 years ago, and it's been a pleasure working with any or all of you that have been sitting in these chairs, and it's been really fun to see the work that this committee has been working on these last couple of years. So glad to still be here.
Yeah.
We're glad to have you.
Well, the next item on the agenda is petitions, proclamations, suggestions, and complaints. We don't take very many complaints, but the rest of it's good. So Alyssa, you want to go?
Well, we always take complaints, so if you have them, feel free, please pass them along. But I will start off on events and news, and if anyone from the committee does have anything they'd like to share, please do so. We just like to do these events and news just to keep you all updated on things that are coming up in Victoria, and just share some fun events that might be of interest, or things that you might want to share to your friends, neighbors, and family. Donuts in Victoria is obviously the first one we keep on that list. Donuts in Victoria is a daytime program. We try and share with older adults specifically, but we do get a wide variety of people that attend this event. Different news and important updates that are happening in the city, specifically things like transportation. That's going to be coming up next week in April. We did something on Downtown West last month. We've done things like reading your utility bill, or how do your taxes work, or all those type of fun things. Obviously, we were talking about ash trees before the meeting. Ash trees are coming up in May. So if you're looking for something to do on a Wednesday morning, the third Wednesday of every month, minus December, please join us. These are all at the Recreation Center, and they all are in the spring summer brochure, which I'll just skip ahead to that one. This has been released, so it should be in mailboxes already. Hopefully everyone's gotten it. If you haven't, or maybe you accidentally recycled it, we won't judge you for that. We do have extras sitting over there for you as well. And then Citizens Academy, I do want to bring that up. Citizens Academy is a program we've launched, I think that's been 5 years now. We started in 2020, right during COVID, so that was a challenge, but we figured it out at that time. But it's a way just to educate the community about city services, how the city functions. You get to see the inside of the water treatment plant, check out public works trucks, come listen to administrative staff talk about how budgeting works. We get to tour Wasserman Lake Preserve. You get to listen to me talk about Victoria history for a session and elections. So it's just a good way to learn all about different things that are going on in Victoria on the city side that people might not think about. That starts this Thursday, but you can still register. And then we'll do that every Thursday up until the end of May, or mid-May, I think is when the last one is. So.
And
How
don't
many
forget,
of you folks have gone through the Senior Citizens or the Citizens Academy? You do it, Richard?
and dinner is provided too.
I went through it in Eden Prairie.
Oh, you did? Yeah, good for you.
Sharon is signed up, so she'll be joining us.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's a great program. We love to have each year new set of graduates, and we actually have some people coming back this year too that started in 2020
Oh,
during the
that's good.
COVID, and they're trying to see what it looks like this time around. So,
That's a good idea.
Have you picked a date yet for the annual summer, where the community award and volunteer appreciation?
yeah, great question. So what Sue is talking or mentioning is we have an annual volunteer gathering event. So each year, advisory committee members, so this committee, Parks and Rec, Planning Commission, any of our city volunteers, whether you do park cleanup, trail cleanup, sometimes we have Eagle Scouts that come and help out with projects. Trying to think of who might else be, but we have a wide variety of volunteers, and we invite them to come for an evening and just share a meal with us so we can thank our volunteers from the past year. So that is scheduled for June 9th. And I believe it starts at 5:30, but this week we will be sending out the email, so be looking for that in your email inbox. So, yes, great question.
Thank you.
And then we also have bingo in the park. We are, since last fall, we are gonna keep trying that bingo series. So we do have flyers here. The one thing we did do this time differently is we do have paper registration. So you can register on the flyer, drop that off, mail it to the Victoria Recreation Center instead of it just being a fully online registration process. So if you even want to take some flyers, please feel free to do so. They're just sitting over here at the table. Then we do have new artwork behind you. It is snowmen, so if you forgot what it looked like outside last week, we do have wonderful artwork from Deb Zeller. Deb Zeller is a local artist in Victoria. She owns a studio in Hopkins, and these are all local artists that she brings in, and we switch these out every other month. So please feel free to take a look. I don't have any voting things for you, but I'll grab those next month. So we'll have the pick your favorite voting section in May. And then last I have is, I think I emailed you last month, just as an FYI, that we talked about doing different park engagement events or engagement activities this summer, whether that be at the farmer's market, or we'll do pop-up events or at classic car nights, just trying to get the word out there about different senior resources in different ways. Obviously, we do a lot digitally, but trying to get more out and about and in person definitely can help do that. So I do have different dates set here if people just want to sign up after the meeting. And then if you do participate in that, we do give out t-shirts, so sign up for a t-shirt as well. I think that is all I had, Chair.
How about from the Public Health Department? Any announcements?
Yes. So a couple of things. I mentioned that I do visit 5 cities every month. So Chan, Victoria, Waconia, Watertown, and Norwood Young America all have a commission on aging or a senior committee. And I started putting together a monthly report that I sent to Alyssa because I realized I shouldn't be the only one who hears what happens is going on for our aging citizens in Carver County. So, and for instance, Waconia was looking for 55 plus driving. And I was like, well, Victoria just talked about that. And so I'm trying to help everyone share resources. There's a lot of mobility. Sue, did you have a question?
No.
So, and then some of the commissions have a calendar, so I include that too. Most of the rec centers, as you know, you can visit any of them if you're interested in events. So that does go to Alyssa. I think if you're interested, you can ask her, and or I can bring copies every month if you're interested in that. One of the things that public health is looking out for, like everyone else, is measles. And specifically, if you travel, I don't know if you know, but the two of the largest school districts, Wayzata and Minnetonka, were on spring break this past week. And a lot of those families, Chanhassen was as well, and Chaska. So there's a lot of travel that happens. I left materials with Alyssa as well on how measles spreads, preventing measles before and after travel, especially international travel, and who needs a measles booster. So if you were born before 1957, you do not need a booster. It is presumed that you've already had the measles. If you were vaccinated between 1957 and 1962, you might. You should check with your doctor. If you were vaccinated between 1963 and 1967, you do need a booster. The measles vaccine you received is considered ineffective, and you will need a booster. If you're vaccinated between 1968 and 1989, you might check with your doctor. And if you're vaccinated after 1989, you do not need a booster. So this is a great graphic. Alyssa also has that.
We hear about measles affecting younger people. Is it affecting older people as well?
I think it's rare for an older vaccinated person to get measles, but it has happened. It is mostly, I read this morning that there are 636 cases in the United States, but 570 are in the Panhandle, associated with the Mennonite community. There are now 3 deaths. They were all children who were unvaccinated. There was 1 case in Minnesota. That person was actually not in the state when they were infectious. They were traveling and were on some Amtrak trains in DC and also traveled internationally, but at no point were they in Minnesota when they were infected.
Thank you.
So I think it's just something that everyone's continuing to watch because it's a big outbreak. You may know that I always bring all the disease information, and it's not all that exciting or happy, but flu, COVID, RSV are all declining. We often see a second outbreak of flu in April and May. It's influenza type B. We're still hearing about norovirus. My neighbor just had it, so be careful. And since it's getting warmer, watch out for ticks if you're walking outside. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Sounds like it's dangerous around here.
Yeah.
We just had
Thank you
COVID
very
now.
much. That's
Yep.
helpful. We appreciate the information. Anybody from the committee have anything you want to share with the group today? Announcements, info? Good. We'll move on to, there's no old business, so new business is election of officers. Yes.
Do we want to do minutes first, Chair?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let's do the minutes, all right?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Skip right over that one. Sorry.
No worries.
We need a motion to approve the minutes as distributed. Anybody want to make that? Richard,
I so
thank
move.
you. And is there a second?
I'll-
Lena, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries. We'll move on to new business. Let's elect some officers. Alyssa.
Yeah, so each year we select a new chair and a new vice chair, and I say new with an asterisk because I believe Chair Kleinfelter
It's
and
time
Vice
for
Chair
some new blood.
Bill have been our chair and vice chair duo since the committee started in 2021. And they've been doing a great job, but I also know that we offer this every year to anyone that might want to take over the role of chair and vice chair. You can obviously speak to them, but it's not necessarily a very stressful role. What the chair is responsible of doing is really just facilitating the meeting, making sure that we're going through our agenda properly, making sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak and participate. And then what we do on a staff side, because we do follow Robert's Rules of Order and we do have motions and sometimes discussion, we get off track a little bit. We do provide a script, and I have a copy over here too. This is where I take my minutes.
Get this.
Yeah, so that does assist on just kind of the process, like how do we take a motion and things. So we provide that for every meeting. So we try and make it not as stressful as possible for anyone who wants to take onto that role. And then of course for scripts, if there's things that need to be adjusted, if a chair would like something more specific or less detail, we're able to work with whatever the needs are of the committee. That's what staff is here for, is really to make sure that you guys have the material to do your jobs well. So what is the process of appointing a chair and vice chair? It's relatively simple, but it does seem like I have a lot of instructions on the screen, so I'll just go through it, I know. First, our current chair, Chair Kleinfelter, will open the floor up for nominations. So that will be an opportunity for anyone to nominate a specific person to become chair for the one-year term. If we have, for a nomination, we do need a first and a second, so there does have to be two people that agree with that nomination. And then, of course, that person does have to accept it as well. We're not going to throw them into a role that they actively do not want to participate in. If there is only one nomination, the process is, again, relatively simple. Then we just go for a motion to actually appoint them as chair. And I do have this sample motion in italicized under the bullet point 3. So if we only have one nomination, that's what we would go with, and that would be the end of the process. If we have more than one nomination, like 2 or 3 people want to, arm wrestle over the chair role, what we would do is do a roll call vote. So we would say, this person and this person want to be chair. Say A for this person, and then we'd go through count, and then we do the same thing for whoever that second person is, and whoever gets the most votes, using quotations on that, would take the seat of chair. And then the same process would be for vice chair once we get through the chair portion. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. All right, well, then I will kick it back to you to open nominations.
Floor is open for nominations for the chair.
I would like to nominate Elena for chair.
Could you put the role of chair up on the, just to make sure?
I actually just described it. I didn't even put a slide on it, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But it is just a one-year term. All you have to do is just run the meeting. There's really nothing we do outside of that for the appointment of chair. Yes. I should have said that at the beginning.
Go for it. You won't regret it.
Can you tell me about your experience as the chair?
Yeah, it's okay to talk about this.
Of course,
We need
yeah.
a second too for the nomination.
We do,
Let's
yep.
get the second.
I'll second.
Alina, it's very simple. The script is very detailed, and you just follow the script basically at the meeting, and it tells you just what to do. Like I forgot to look, so I skipped the one about the action on approving the minutes. So Alyssa puts the script together, and it's very easy to follow. So the chair job is kind of rote. You don't have to think very much.
More perfunctory.
Yeah.
And one thing, the staff, Alyssa or whoever is here in her absence, are very helpful to step in, interject, and help with anything to move it along.
Yeah.
And if the chair is on vacation,
Then,
As chair.
vice chair
Yep.
jumps in.
Yeah. Sue and I have both done that a couple of times. One of us has been gone, the other one fills in. We kind of coordinate that.
Right. And we travel a fair amount. I mean, I probably miss 3 meetings a year. You maybe do about
three,
that too, 2 or 3. So you're able to fill in for each other and, yeah. Sorry.
I would also like to note, as when I was thinking about this after a little bit, the other thing on top of coming to these meetings is that 2 times a year, the chair or the vice chair does come to city council and just speak to, what was on the work plan, what did we do for the last year. Sometimes council has some questions like, have you thought about this, or would you like to talk more about that? So that is the other thing that the chair does. That is something that staff works with the committee or the chair on well in advance. So it's not like, so it's not like, hey, you have to speak and we're not going to tell you
A
what
lot
about
of
yet.
support from the city, a lot. Thank you. Well, we seconded it already.
So any other nominations, or are you going to chair this part of the meeting? No, aren't you supposed to?
I will let you take this part.
Okay.
When we do vice chair, then it gets a little goofy, but
Okay. We'll close the nominations then if there's nobody else that wants the floor, and we need a motion to go ahead and elect Alina.
I make a motion to elect Elena, or nominate Elena as chair for the upcoming year.
Actually, the motion is to appoint.
To appoint.
And is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Sharon. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries. Congratulations.
Yes.
This is great.
now this is kind of where it gets sticky because
Okay.
technically we do have a new chair. However, just for consistency, David, I feel like for the rest of this meeting, it might make sense for you just to continue the role. And then obviously you can pick it up in May if that works for the committee.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. So how about vice chair? We have nominations.
Well, should we?
You go. No.
Okay, should I nominate Jenny or Richard? I nominate Jenny for the vice chair.
Yeah, sure. Pick on the new person.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh, no. No, I won't do that.
Sharon?
Sharon.
You-
I nominate Sharon. You're too new, sorry.
Vice Chair?
Yeah.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay.
I'll second the nomination for Sharon as the vice chair. All right. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll declare them closed, and we'll have a motion. A motion is in order to appoint Sharon as the vice chair. Let's move that one. Susan's going to move that one. Thank you. I'll second it. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Sharon has been appointed. Great, thank you. This is nice to get some movement, I think.
Nobody was gonna say it.
Now we have orientation for new members, following the agenda.
You do. So yes, well, congratulations to both our new chair and vice chair. This is very exciting, a new turn for the committee.
Yeah.
And you two will do it great. I wouldn't stress about it whatsoever. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me before, during, after, right now, whenever.
When you're taking care of your baby, who is taking your place?
That's a great question. So the other reason we chose to do the engagement events during the summer is that will be in lieu of our committee meetings. So
Oh, we could.
you actually get a good break.
We could have.
We get to skate.
Yeah.
Yes, so June, July, and August will be focused on this area of really ensuring that, you know, we have people staffed and that the committee, if this is what they want to do, that they have time to do it. And then we will not hold committee meetings for those 3 months, and then obviously pick back up in September. So,
Nice.
yes. Yep. So I will be back. I'll miss this too. I've talked about how I'm going to miss everyone at work. I'll have to come visit.
Yeah, please do.
And Victoria has great sidewalks and trails, so I'll
Yep.
be bringing the stroller. Say Bonnie has no trails, so minus the one big one. So I will be around. But yes, let's talk about orientation. We do this every year just as a refresh for anyone that's been on the committee, but also for new members. And of course, this is for everybody. If you have questions, if I'm missing something for the people that have been here for a while, please feel free to interject, ask questions. It can be more of a dialogue rather than a presentation. But what we're going to go through today is really just an overview of the meetings. Obviously, we've kind of gone through part of it, so we've seen it firsthand on how these meetings go. We're also going to talk about meeting recordings, our agenda software. We use iCompass, how agenda packets get sent to you all. We'll touch on open meeting law because that's important in this role as well. And then, of course, Q&A. But again, that can be done at any time, but I do reserve some time afterwards for that as well. So just a basic introduction. What does this committee do? Like we said, it was established in 2021, and really the purpose of this committee is to provide recommendations to City Council and to staff, advocate for resources, programming, education, to and for our 55+ community. So as staff, we really look to you all to help guide us and help make Victoria residents' lives better, no matter their age. So, you know, keep an ear out, whatever your friends, neighbors, circles, whatever you hear, things that could be updated, things you see. We're really looking for your advice on ways that we can better our community. And obviously we talk about that each meeting and during the work plan about things that we can do differently and ways that we can improve. So that's really the number one goal of this committee. We do kind of break that down into like 3 different sections. One is to review and recommend. So part of the committee's role is to receive and evaluate input from the committee or from the community. Obviously, we're going to do these engagement sessions, and we're probably going to hear a lot from our residents about, you know, what do they like? What do they don't like? What can we improve upon? As when we get that feedback, we're hoping you guys can digest it, really think through. You know, you might heard, you know, 5 things about this, and then you heard 2 things about people that don't want this. And so trying to, you know, balance that and give staff some sound advice on, you know, maybe how do we take this and move it forward. Also make recommendations, not only to us, but also Parks and Recreation Committee, as well as other more City Council, but sometimes the Planning Commission too, as we talk more downtown west in those areas. Specifically when it comes to that 55+ programming, facilities will be huge when we talk about downtown west and just overarching policies and services that we provide. And then researchers, obviously if you guys see something like in the newspaper, or if you go to a different community and you have a great event and a great experience, like share that with us. We want to know, you know, we want to hear what other communities are doing well, what you might see elsewhere. So please feel free to share anything that you might see out there. You also serve as ambassadors. That's the second one. So, you know, being that ambassador, that communicator, not only to receive information from the community, that's one way, but also sharing information that you hear by being on the committee, whether it's events or things that the Carver County Public Health shares, like about measles vaccines and vaccine clinics, like making sure that you're sharing that information as well. It's really a 2-way approach. And then that kind of gets into the act as the liaison for resident issues. If you hear anything from the community, we always leave that space open for complaints. So if, you know, somebody, your neighbor's talking about how the trail's really dirty, whether that has to do with senior resources or not, tell us. We're happy to, to take that complaint and fix it, because a lot of times we don't always know what we don't know. So we're happy to take any feedback whatsoever, because we just want to make sure that we're getting things fixed. And then the last one is promote and evaluate resources. Promote, obviously, we've kind of talked about making sure that information is getting posted on there, posted on the community, shared with our community and our residents. And we do that in a variety of different ways. Obviously, we've talked about getting out boots on the ground this summer. We do things like our senior resource guide and creating that. But there's also the part of evaluating resources. Are these effective? Are we getting good turnouts? Things like donuts. Are we actually getting a good turnout? What could be some topics? We've had some dialogue about, you know, maybe we need to bring in the Alzheimer's Association. So let's make sure we drag them in. What are things that we can bring in to really help share some great resources with our community? Any questions on that? Any feedback from our, well, senior committee members? Does that sound about right? Would you add anything additional?
You folks, you've seen the resource guide that the committee's put together maybe in the past? Jenny?
The senior advisory booklet, is there?
That's been a big
looks like-
project through the years.
Oh, there you go, that one.
Yeah, it's worth taking a look at. It's amazing how much stuff is there, and we update that every year. That's been a big project that we've worked on, besides trails, and we'll talk about some other things. But that's worth just skimming through anyway.
Yes, that has been a big project since the very beginning. And Jenny, I can send that. So typically I send like a after meeting email kind of review. If we have certain things that we've talked about or questions that I don't have the answer to, I'll try and send that out in an email afterwards. I will start adding your monthly updates to that as well. So once I get that, I'll probably include that in the email chain. And then any of these flyers will be in that too. So I'll include the senior resource guide link to that email. So meeting agendas, well, meetings and agenda items. So we do meet the first Monday of each month at 10 a.m. These do change just based on scheduling conflicts. Sometimes we know we won't have a quorum, so then we won't host a meeting. We sometimes have holidays that are in there, so then our meetings get switched around to different days, which is challenging. And then, of course, elections is really big, and we use council chambers as kind of our election hub, so we'll have to play around with dates when that comes through, and that's just every even year. So we're not obviously dealing with that this time around. We just have other scheduling issues that I'm causing. Location will always be at council chambers for our meetings. Of course, if we do like engagement events or things like that, they'll be out in the community. We do have to post notice for this, and I'm kind of jumping into the open meeting law portion of the conversation. So we as staff have to share when this meeting is occurring, where it is occurring, and we do that by posting an annual calendar, which you all get at the beginning of the year. If there's any deviation to that, we have to post a separate notice that says, you know, this committee is meeting at 10:30 or 11 or whatever date that's not necessarily part of that first Monday routine. Or if we change location, we have to post notice that, hey, we're not going to be here, we're actually going to be somewhere else. And then member commitment. We do ask that you just don't miss more than 3 consecutive meetings. If you're not attending them, if this is something that you're not interested in anymore, do not hesitate just to let us know. We'd rather you resign and then we can fill that seat rather than just having an empty chair every meeting or not knowing if people are going to attend. So just let us know. It's okay. And then how the meeting flows, obviously we start it with call to order, which is just, you know, we're starting this meeting at this time. We say that at the beginning of every meeting. It is on the script. We do roll call, so we just say everybody's name. We leave that space open for petitions, proclamations, suggestions, and complaints for committee members to share anything they've heard. Obviously, staff, we provide that update as well as Carver County. We go through the minutes. We always try and approve minutes from the last meeting. So we don't want to have, you know, multiple months in between if we don't have to. So we always try and at least have minutes ready to go for the next meeting. We do have to have them approved by this committee before they're finalized and published. We do keep space for old business and new business. We typically usually have new business in this committee, but if we have repeated items, we'll put it in old business, so it'll come first, and then any new business will come after that. There is times where, just because of the meeting flow, we might not have old business and an item might be old business. We'll stick it under new business because the meeting flow just fits better that way. So you might see that that's a little bit more interchangeable. And then we keep space for others. So if there's anything that the committee would like to talk about that wasn't necessarily listed on here, or just a thought you might have had, letting us know, because then we can add that to an additional agenda item at a different meeting. So keeping space for that. And then of course adjournment, and we always try and get these meetings done within an hour. So we try and keep that space. We don't want to necessarily go past 11 o'clock, so we try and get that wrapped up within the 11 o'clock time frame. These meetings, as I mentioned right before we started, are recorded, so you can watch our meetings, and I'll just go to the next one, live on our cable access channel. And that's just not this meeting, it's all of our council meetings and all of our Citizen Advisory Committee meetings, so Parks and Rec and Planning Commission as well. And then you can also watch it on our YouTube channel. That is done live, but also after the fact, you can watch all of our past meetings there too. And then on our agenda portal, which is, if my mouse is gonna work, linked on our website. It's actually right on the main page here. You can go under government, and then they have city meetings, and then it will get you to what we call our agenda hub. It actually shows now live, that's us right there. But this will have all of our agendas, all of our minutes. And again, that's not just for us, that's council and everybody else too. And then you can see, you can click on today's meetings. There's a link. If it's underlined, that means it's a link, and you can see everything here. At least 3 days in advance, I will post this publicly. We're legally required to. So I will have this posted at least by Friday, since we meet on Mondays. And I will send this, we have an email listserv that people can sign up to, so they get this. I think we have like 70 people that get our agenda, so that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Comparatively, I think we have like 300 for city council, so we're doing pretty well. So this will get sent out to them. I will also send it to all of you right away, so then you guys have access to this link and you can review the agendas 3 days in advance before our meetings. And then open meeting law, just to skim, or not really skim, but just to touch on this. Because we are a public body, we are required to adhere to open meeting law standards. So what that means is that all meetings, or all meetings of this body need to be open to the public and be accessible to the public. So we can't necessarily have meetings outside of this because they wouldn't be open to the public. We want to make sure that the public is engaged in the conversations. They know the items that are coming up. That's why we post the agenda, so it says, you know, what exactly we're talking about, so the public can review that, say, okay, will I come to this meeting or not? It also ensures that there's not any secret conversations that are necessarily being had outside of committee time or outside of these meetings as well. And there's some kind of rules about that as well. I don't have it on here, but there's something called serial meetings. I thought I put the slide in there, but I'll just talk about it. So even if, let's say, and I should start, this doesn't necessarily mean that you can't talk to each other outside of council chambers and outside of committee meetings. What it really is saying that you shouldn't be talking about senior advisory committee business outside of council chambers and outside of these meetings. And there's something called serial meetings. So if Richard, you would start a conversation, or you text Sharon and you say, hey, I want to talk about, you know, something that has to do with committee business. And then Sharon, you go to David and then have that same conversation. And then David, you go to Sue. That would be a quorum. And therefore, technically, you're having a conversation, even though it's not in person, it's through text message, or it's through mail, or it's through a phone call. You're technically having these conversations with each other outside of committee business. So just think about that too. Again, I know that's not necessarily a problem here, and it hasn't been in the past, but it's something I just want to at least let people know that we are we do have to follow open meeting law standards as part of this committee. But any overall questions?
So just a reminder, there's 7 on the committee, 3 is okay.
3 would not be a quorum, it would be 4. Yeah, and that would go into how we host a meeting, so we have to have 4 people here to even host a meeting. So if you know you're not going to be at a meeting, let us know, because then if we don't have a quorum, then we can just cancel it or reschedule or whatever we need to do. Follow state statute, we cannot counsel. So in 2023, the committee talked about walkability and having healthy access to trails, getting people out and about. And through that, we had multiple conversations throughout 2023 and 2024. And one of the ideas that the committee spun up is creating, walking routes, trail routes that people can easily, say, okay, I want to go from point A to point B and then turn around or just do a loop. So then they have something digestible that they can do rather than just, trying to find something on their own or just taking a walk and not necessarily recognizing, where they might go, how far it is, does it have steep slopes, is the trail gravel, is it concrete, is it sidewalk, just those type of things. So through that, the committee identified, I believe, 12 different routes that people can go on our website, and we have maps and we have instructions that they can go and say, I want to walk the 6 Mile Creek North. This is one of my favorite ones, like Watermark area, Lake Bridge area, and this is just a portion of it. I can't do the whole picture on this slide, but you can find it. You can say, okay, it's about 3 miles or 2.5 miles both ways. I know what I'm getting myself into, and we also know where parking is. We also have, things like starting points. So it's just really helping people get out and about and showing how to do that. And I'm going to skip through most of these, but these are different type of trails. I can reference these, or we can reference these as we go through if we have specific questions. But then what the committee did is they went through and walked these routes, and they said, while they were doing that, they had a survey that they had to go through from AARP, and it said, are these routes accessible? What are we missing as part of these routes? Are they maintained well? Do we need to think about something different here? Is there enough shade? Just like all those type of amenities and features that people might be asking if they're walking these spaces. So on a staff level, we've taken all that feedback, we've kind of digested it, and we do this through other surveys as well, and just kind of summarize it into 3 different talking points. What are we doing well? And we'll go through these. What can we improve, and what are we missing? And then what do we do with these 3 bullet points? And this is where we're going to focus our attention today as a committee, as in if these 3 questions are answered appropriately. And obviously this is more directed to the people that were part of that discussion back then. But obviously everyone's been out or on our trails, or at least know about our trails, so anyone can obviously chime in here as well. But what we'll do with these 3 questions, and if these things make sense, is then we'll create some sort of objectives and priorities based on that will be taken into some sort of walkability plan that we can then create, have council review, Parks and Recreation Committee review, adopt, and then what we hope that will do for us in the future is create a plan on and include timelines on, when are we going to make these amenities or these improvements to our trail system. And that will also help us with some sort of grant funding if we have some sort of plan laid out and timelines, and that will help with our budgeting as well. So I'm going to skip back to what are we doing well. Again, this is just a summary from what we got into that large feedback that we heard from the committee. So really the 2 that we heard from the committee regarding what are we doing well is we have a high number of mounted trails. We know that we have 50-ish trails and sidewalks in Victoria. That's something we're not necessarily lacking on, and we want to make sure that people are aware of it, and we want to be proud of it. And then maintenance of trails. we typically do a good job of keeping them up, making sure that they're, the major trails are plowed during the winter, that we don't see garbage on our trails, that they're relatively clean and taken care of. What can we improve? These are things that could be adjusted or enhanced, things that we do, but we can just do better. One, access to trail amenities. This is a big topic as part of those survey results. Additional benches might be needed, especially on some of our longer trails. If we're promoting these as potentially accessible trails, making sure that there's enough seating and spaced out seating as well. And that can go with tables as well. It doesn't just have to be benches, but some sort of seating throughout there. Or if there's a really nice space and we have an open area for it, maybe it's a good picnic location and we do want to put a picnic table there or something. Shade structures. In the summer, we love when it gets hot and we love when it gets sunny, but we do have to be aware that the sun gets really hot, and we want to make sure that we do have proper shading alongside some of these trails. We have a lot of natural shading that comes with trees, but not always, and we want to make sure those are pointed out. Trash receptacles are another one that was added to that as well. Some of these are nearby parks, so it works out, but not all of them. So making sure if we are promoting these, that people have space to throw away their or recycle their water bottle or their dog poop bag or whatever happened, just giving them that space to do that. Making sure that we are connecting our trails. So one thing that we did highlight, and we talked a lot about it when we were creating our trail routes, is our trail gaps, as well as some areas that were just sidewalk and making sure sidewalks are maintained, because that's not necessarily a city responsibility, that's a homeowner responsibility. So we want to make sure that that's being looked at as we're promoting these different walking routes. And then rethinking our non-conventional spaces. And what do we mean by that? It's ways that we can rethink our trail system through like maybe mini parks, pocket parks, parklets. And we're not just talking about play infrastructure here, but there could be just like a random swing along a trail or an educational sign, just something really nice that ties into the trail. Public art is another one that you could throw out into a space if it's appropriate for it. So making sure that we're not just having these wonderful natural amenities, but we're making them fun and interactive and just having these moments of delight that people can experience while they're walking these trails. And then what are we missing? The big one, wayfinding. That's something that we struggle with. So one of the things that we've done or we're working on right now is getting new park signage. So that will be coming through. So you'll see new park signs in all of Victoria parks this year. So that's really exciting. That's number one on wayfinding, just on navigating to our parks, but then also directional signage. If we have these walking routes, if we have these trail amenities, making sure that when people are on the routes, that they know how to get from point A to point B without having, some sort of paper map or, relying on their Google Maps on their phone. Making sure people are able to navigate the space independently is huge. So we want to really focus our attention towards wayfinding. And then something that I think staff wasn't necessarily thinking about, but it was picked up on the committee and it's very important, is accessible boardwalks. A lot of our trails have boardwalk areas. None of our boardwalks have railings. So when you're walking through our boardwalk areas, you are obviously coming over a wetland, waterways, things like that, and the boardwalks are obviously wood, so they're not necessarily the most flattest of ground, so making sure that there is some sort of way that people can have a railing to hold on to walk those routes safely and feeling more secure. So that is something that is added to this list as well. So like I said, based on these three kind of topic areas, if the committee is feeling that this is a relatively good summary of the feedback that was suggested as part of those, what we will do is we will take this and create objectives and then well as priorities that we can put into a walking plan. Just as an example of what that could potentially look like, just based on these three areas, we could have an objective that's, promoting our walking routes and trails. And then, we could have things like we've talked in this committee, like developing themed routes with informational signage. There could be an action item for improving wayfinding, creating maps, signage. We've also talked about creating an online portal map, so maybe connecting with All Trails or Google Maps or somewhere so then people can digitally access these trails. So those are some, like, if we had an overall objective of promoting, maybe some bullet points that could be added as priorities underneath that. But did a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Any
open it up
thoughts,
for-
discussion, questions?
Do any of these trails, the ones I've been on have not, but just within the city, do any of them have like a water fountain or accessible to filling a water bottle?
Great question, committee member. It depends on where they're located.
Right, I
So
would think.
like number 5 center, so it would have water through the recreation center. However, if you're on this one, which goes around Wasserman Park, and this neighborhood over on Laketown, it would not have any accessible water. So that is something, you know, as we talk about adding amenities, that could be added on there. The challenge with that is that obviously you need to have a water source.
Right.
But I think as we think about how do we promote these differently too, something we've added is, you know, trail material, parking. We don't necessarily have on there, does it have bathrooms nearby? Does it have water nearby? And that's maybe something that we need to highlight through this.
I remember us talking about that, identifying what trailheads have accessible bathrooms, you know, and water. And didn't we even talk about the grade on some of them?
We did.
Okay.
So Alyssa, what are next steps here?
Next steps are, 1, to see if this committee thinks those 3, well, the summaries make sense. If there's anything we're missing, things that we need to add. For those that were part of this, if you remember, and this doesn't match at all what you thought you said. And then from there, what we will do is we will take these and take any suggestions and recommendations from today and then put that into some sort of objective and priority list to bring back to this committee.
So working towards the work plan for next year. These would be potential items, and then that hits a budget potentially if we want to say this is going to. We've never done anything that involved dollars.
Well, this would be a new one.
How does that work with the city council?
So council sets the budget. So technically the committee has no budget authority or budget recommendation authority. What they do have is this level of recommending policies. So recommending a walkability plan that has, these are our priorities, these are our timelines, these are, the priorities within those areas too. That goes to city council to say, yep, we agree with this, we want to move forward with this, or, let's adjust some of these things based on, some of these other projects that we have going on that we know are going on, or the budget that we know is going on. And then they can say, okay, we're going to allocate, this amount of money for new benches alongside our walking paths in 2020, whatever. So that's how that budget piece works together. So we're not necessarily going to be talking about numbers in this committee. What we'll do is talk about, what are, out of all these projects, what do we want to see first? What do we want to see last? What is available to us now? What do we maybe have to wait on? And then create that order to then propose to city council.
The study happened before I joined, so you probably covered whatever my questions are. But was there a conversation about connecting the Lake Bridge, the western communities to downtown? Because there's no access, they all have to drive.
That is a great question. We talked a lot about trail gaps. And actually the committee that really focuses on trail gaps is Parks and Recreation. So they go through our trail gaps every single year and rank them and prioritize them and figure out, similar to this conversation, where where does that, and I think that one's actually number one if I remember correctly, because Bavaria is getting worked on through the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan. So I think that's now being bumped to number one, I know, which is exciting. And then obviously council takes under consideration things like property owner rights and grading challenges and budget to then figure out when did that come through in the timeline. There's a webpage on trail gaps on the city's website if anyone's interested in even looking at what those priorities are. The committee does a lot of work in trying to identify where the trail gaps are, but really, like, what is that priority list?
And then, something we can do for free is promote walking clubs.
Talk about that.
You know, just exploring different trails weekly or something throughout the summer. I know my mother, who's walker dependent, loves our trails. I just have to get her there.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Sure.
get her to the starting point. And she would love benches. Yes.
There was a big discussion on benches too. I mean, having worked for the city of Chanhassen, benches have to be able to, there are certain standards, you know, for benches. So based on longevity and all that, and that's where, you know, Eagle Scouts all the time would want to come in and do things, but the city really does a good job at knowing what is appropriate and would be maintained well for them, but realizing benches are needed.
And we do have a city standard bench now. This last couple of years, we've really honed in and identified that, because we do want to make sure that no matter where you are in Victoria, you know you're in Victoria. So we want to make sure all of our benches are the same, trash bins, our signs. So we've put a lot of effort on that. But and to that, and I know it's 11 o'clock, so I don't want to take too much time. What we can do is then work with SHIP grants through the county and say, you know, we have a walking plan and we see this as a huge accessibility need to have, you know, 3 benches along this route. Can you help with funding related to that? And then we can pick out our own benches that obviously hit all the criteria of accessibility, and then get those purchased and then installed.
Do you need anything else from us today?
I'm seeing head nods. I'm not seeing any, you know, no's. So we'll take this and kind of make it into something more priority-based and project-based and bring that back to the committee.
Thank you. They did a really good job. You summarized it very well.
Had really good feedback, so that definitely helps.
Can you review the meeting schedule now? Are we meeting in May?
We are meeting in May, and I don't have that date off the top of my head, but I can show off this eye
was
compass.
You gave us an email with all the months.
Did you?
Yeah,
To,
probably in January or February.
oh wait, actually it's this. Sorry guys, bad example.
There you go.
It will be May 5th. May 5th.
And then not again until
The fall.
September.
Yep.
Okay.
So we won't get any agendas or anything through June, July, August, just
Not agendas.
to participate and if possible.
Correct, but we do have an events coordinator that's coming online, a new staff person that's going to be really focused on taking over events for the city. They are starting in May, late May, mid-May, May. So they'll be the primary contact. As soon as we get all this information, we'll send that to them. I'm going to have everything ready for them when it comes to these engagement events and getting all the contact information put together for them. So they'll reach out to you just as a reminder of, you know, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to bring. Wear your t-shirts. We'll have lanyards, those kind of fun things. So more of the logistical piece.
And you'll send signups for us and
I actually have signups here, but if anyone wants to sign up online or after the fact, I'll send a reminder out too. So, yep.
One other last thing in the donuts, I noticed in November there is going to be something on Alzheimer's, which we've talked about for a couple of years. So it's, I think, National Alzheimer's Month, so that's very much appreciated.
I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn. Who would like to make it?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Moved by Sue, second. Richard, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you.